Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, cabinet members, and economic managers, business leaders, ladies and gentlemen. I start off by reading a quote from the Economist Intelligence Unit. Where the Philippines differs from its neighbors, and indeed from most crisis-hit economies, is that the crisis has generated less pronounced economic ups and downs. The economy has not contracted at all in year-on-year terms during the current global crisis. How true this is indeed. And this is a story that many of you know, but many outside don't even know. In fact, when I made a visit to one of the countries I've been to, one of the leaders there said, you know, the problem with the Philippines is that you always have a boom and bust cycle. And I said, not in the last 8 years. We have had uninterrupted quarter growth every quarter, and that is one of the important things we have achieved, and which has enabled us to be resilient during the food, global, and now climate change crisis. We have achieved much in the areas of infrastructure investment, job creation, and macroeconomic stability that have helped us through the worst of these crises. As I said earlier, first there was a global food crisis, then a global financial and economic crisis, and now we have a climate change crisis. But the result of our reforms is a Philippine economy that is stronger and more able to withstand shocks such as those that the global crisis, the three global crises, have been throwing at us. And our economic managers will be the ones to give the figures, not me. But I can say, in summary, that we have sustained positive economic growth throughout the global recession and even exceeded expectations for the second quarter. We have had important financial and fiscal reforms. The financial reforms have created solid fundamentals that underpin our banking sector today. They reinforce the conservative banking practices. These values have significantly sheltered our country's finances. In recognition of this stability, Moody's Investor Service upgraded the Philippine credit rating last July. And even the damage from the two recent typhoons that hit Manila and most of Luzon was deemed manageable, quote unquote, so that rating and multilateral agencies maintain their outlook for positive economic growth this year. And let me give my appreciation to the banking sector. Aside from the fact that their innate conservatism, together with our financial and central bank reforms, have given us a sound banking system to the global financial crisis. In the Economic Resiliency Program, which we discussed in the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry conference last year, where we asked the private sector to contribute, or not that we asked the private sector committed to contribute 50 billion pesos to a 100 billion peso investment fund. Per the report of Secretary Fabiola to me, the private sector has complied with its 50 billion pesos, especially in financing the power investments. Thank you very much for that. Aside from the fiscal reforms, you're of course familiar with aside from the financial reforms, you're of course familiar with the fiscal reforms. The bitter medicine of fiscal reform that we took years ago. Also, you are familiar with the economic resilience that it has created, so that, as I said today, we have a stronger, more robust nation. And therefore now, we are poised to ride the wave of the impending global economic rebound and to offer investors an opportunity to capture the growth prospects that come with that rebound. For as we know, there are already early signs or green sprouts that the long-awaited global rebound is on the horizon. The Asian Development Bank has reported signs of return of investor risk appetite, supported by such indicators as the Morgan Stanley Capital International Index, showing a rise from its lowest level last November, indicating that investor appetite for Asian equities is rebounding.